folks, Free Play Frank. Today I've got part 5 of the CMC Vintage Lathe Restoration project for you. And then later I'm going to play a Blue Oyster Cult song from their first album, Cities on Flame with Rock and Roll. Okay, let's do this. Alright, so I found another electrician that was an expert in wiring motors and switches and so on. And he took my switch and he rewired it all according to the wiring diagram for the motor, and he labeled the end of all the wires. So all I have to do now is install it according to the wiring code for the electric motor, and I should be good to go. Here, my friend made me this nice chuck adapter here, because there's no way I could make it. I don't have a lathe that can cut these threads. And I'm going to get ready here to install a big 4-jaw chuck on here now. Chuck's on. I had to take the jaws all out and clean all the rust and stuff out because it was all stuck because I've been sitting around for 20 or 30 years. So got it all working real nice now. But I'm going to make a better chuck key for it. Well, alright guys, I promise you in the next video about this lathe, and it's a year later, I know, I've been busy doing other stuff, and that I would show you this machine running. So I've got it all wired up, and the breaker is on, clutch is off, and here we go. Okay, the motor runs in forward. Let it stop. And we'll try reverse. Motor runs in reverse. I'll put the belt back on here. Belt back on. Get it as close to centered as I can. Alright. Centered better than that. Might have oil on it. It's been sitting here for a whole year. So okay, here we go again. She runs. A bit out of balance because of that big chuck in the jaws. So that's direct drive there. That's in the lowest speed of the direct drive. So if I put the back gears on, I'll be able to run it a lot slower than this. Now what my electrician told me is this switch here is not rated for 5 horsepower. But he said don't start it under load. If you start it with a clutch release, it should be fine because it's a 60 or 70-year-old switch. So it's a higher quality than anything you're going to be able to buy now. So far I'm happy with that. It spins pretty good. So next thing we're going to do is we'll get her going and we'll try out the apron. Alright, lead screws turning. Pretty slow speed. My first time trying to use this. what's moving here? Cross slide moving. Can't see the cross slide moving. Carriage is moving towards the truck now. This is a really slow speed. Okay, so that's to move the carriage towards the trucks. Never taken the apron apart on this, so I have no idea what's in there. So it could be broken. Half nuts could be worn out, I'm not sure. So you can see around the back here. Yeah, it sounds like the half nut's not engaging properly. We have this thing here, I think this is the threading. This is for threading, and it was wired up and the end of it's broken off, so I don't know what the deal is with that. Probably going to have to take that apart. But I think it's supposed to stay, I don't think it's supposed to move by itself. Because you don't want it going into gear while it's already feeding the cross slide. You definitely do not want it going into gear. I may have to take the apron apart on this thing. I think something's not engaging properly in there, but I'm going to spend some time playing with this and I'm going to show you it working. Okay, I got this figured out now. That's the neutral position. Here, that feeds everything towards the chuck, and this here is the clutch to make it run. You spin it out like that. Now it's feeding towards the clutch. That's the slowest speed. This tumbler over there, the lowest speed. Actually, I could be wrong there. There's another thing that changes it 4 ways. So I'm not sure which one that's in. I'll have to look again. And this one here is for the cross slide. You see how the handle's bent there? That presents a bit of a challenge there. Turn it on and off. I'm going to have to heat this up with a torch and bend it back. I don't like that. And then these half nuts in here, this is for the threading. That's why it's semi-half engaged, because this has come loose inside somehow. So I'm going to have to take that apart to get that to work. The threading dial is turning. So anyways, this should be suitable for just basic turning the diameter and so on, and facing off stuff. And once I get this issue with the threading lever sorted out, then I should be able to thread with it too. Well, here's the slowest speed. I don't know what that would be, 30 RPM maybe. Well, here's the middle speed on the back here, so I don't know what that would be. Probably 75 RPM would be my guess. guys. I showed it to you running. So my neighbor's got this sprocket here he's making for someone else. I'm not sure what kind of machine it's for, but works real well. It cuts it no problem. I added a little bit more spring tension on the back over here. You can see to pull down on the back of the motor so that it would keep the belt tight, because when you take a heavy cut it starts to slip. But it seems to be working pretty well. I'm happy with it so far. And I'm going to do one more short video here and show you guys what it looks like cleaned up and painted. Alright, so I got her all cleaned up now. I painted the parts I fabricated for it. I left some of these vintage looking pulleys. I like the vintage look, so I just left them unpainted. And I left the rest of the machine original the way I got it too, because the point of doing this restoration isn't to make it so I can enter it in vintage machinery shows and win prizes. The point of this is to get a working machine, which I now have. And there's still stuff to do. I still have to remake that ID plate, and I've still got to take the apron apart and fix the threading issues there. I've got it wired up because it seems to want to drop down and start contacting the lead screw while I'm making a cut, which isn't good. And I still have to straighten this out. That's no big deal. Anyways, I got some tooling for it, or some of the tooling I got for it. And this dial on here, when I first looked at this, I thought it was metric. But so I put my dial indicator on there, and I found out that those tiny little marks in there are 5/1000ths each. So if you want to make accurate machining, you have to use the dial indicator to dial it in. See, there's 5 thou, there's 10 thou. So it is possible to do accurate work with this machine, and it's pretty rigid. I've made some pretty heavy cuts. I've taken an 1/8 of an inch cut on steel with it, and handles it no problem. And I left the motor original the way I got it too. I'm not sure what that dent's for, whether somebody dropped it or it was put like that for its original application, but I'm gonna leave it. It's working fine. Belt tensioner is working fine. And I want to show you the this tensioning spring I added to the back here to keep the main drive belt tight. I had to keep adding bungee cords to it to make it tighter until it would run and take a heavy cut without slipping. Seems to be good now. So and there's the ID plate. I think I showed you that on the first video. But anyways, there's more work to do to this, and I'll share it with you in future videos. So I don't think there's enough work to do to this yet to make another one dedicated just to this machine. So when I do the rest of it, I'll add it into future videos for you guys to see. And hope you all enjoyed seeing me bring this old machine back to life. On to the next one.
My heart is black and my lips are cold. Cities on flame with rock and roll. 3,000 guitars, they seem to cry. My ears will melt and then my eyes. So let that girl rock and roll. Cities on flame now with rock and roll. Let that girl rock and roll. The city's on flame now with rock and roll. and it's alright. Cities on flame with rock and roll. Marshall will boy with Fender control. So let that girl rock and roll. Cities on flame with rock and roll. Don't let that girl rock and roll. The city's on flame now with rock and roll. My heart is black, my lips are cold. Cities on flame with rock and roll. 3,000 guitars, they seem to cry. My ears will melt, and then my eyes. So let that girl rock and roll. The city's on flame now with rock and roll. Let that girl rock and roll. The city's on flame now with rock and roll. Alright, Cities on Flame with Rock and Roll by Blue Oyster Cult. Thanks guys for joining me tonight. We'll see you all next time. Take her easy.